And hello, everyone. Welcome back once again to another wonderful week here on the PCS Spring Split 2022. I am Pyrotechnics. I'll be your play-by-play caster for this evening. Joining me, of course, is Clement Chu. How are you doing, my friend? Ready for another week of action?
I'm absolutely thrilled to be here, and this week is our start of the Lunar New Year, which is the Year of the Tiger, and coincidentally, it's also the week of the Sem 9 Tigers, because they're going to play a third of their games in this just 1 week alone, moving all of their Week 1 games to this one.
It is written in the stars. I am so excited. Before we get into the action tonight, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors here on the PCS. They are, of course, CTBC Bank and Caliber. Thank you for making the PCS Spring Split possible. Now, Clement, it's a great thing you mentioned Sem 9. We will finally get to see them in action, our Malaysian representatives, also building up from the blocks that were the Berjaya Dragons. So, obviously, tossing one zodiac sign out for another. I'm curious to see how this team performs.
Yeah, that's really the biggest question that we have on our minds right now. They've kept the same coach, the same support, and the same jungler, but all three of their laners in Ozzy, Minji, and K2 have gone on to other teams. So we're seeing a combination of much older players back from 2018 coming back, and also a new AD carry that no one has seen before. So it's a really interesting blend and an interesting mix of things, and we're hoping that we have another team that can make it to playoffs that comes from the previous LST region.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to see what some of those new players can do. In particular, we have seen some new talent coming in and really tearing it up in this split when there just are so many new faces. But there's a lot to get into today. We have 6 games to make up for having to delay the ones from the last week, and it is going to be an action-packed week of them, and I think we'll be getting that up in just a minute. There are, of course, a little bit of things to go over in the past, like what happened last week, just to catch y'all up if you've been missing out. Any massive surprises for you, Clement? Because I can think of a couple.
Yeah, I think the two big ones are definitely MFT, Meta Falcon Team, and Deep Cross Gaming. These two teams, honestly, we didn't know what to expect for them, but Deep Cross Gaming has shocked all of us with this unique Smite top roaming style, really the Avenger squad coming for J-Team, and then Meta Falcon Team is coming in also with a very unique set of sensibilities, which is they're just playing triple dive every single game, and sometimes they will catch other teams like Beyond Gaming off guard.
Yeah, that was a massive upset for sure. Obviously didn't work out against the likes of CTBC Flying Oyster, and here's one of the reasons why Gemini was our player of the week. 16.0 KDA, big ol' Lee Sin player here. Gemini, we thought he could be, if not the best, certainly one of the best junglers in the league, and he's certainly making a run for that title. The team is off to a very flying start. Pun very intended, thanks to him.
I think Gemini this year is just going to be the best jungler, hands down. In the past, it was River, it was Kongyue sort of contesting him, eclipsing him at times in playoff performance for that spot. But now Gemini, with Mission, they are the most dominant mid-jungle duo that we have in the league. He's still doing these really high mechanical plays, even at his relatively advanced age for the jungler at this point in time right now. And it's just so cool to see this sort of combination, because they really have that variety where they can just play a very standard control mage, or they can just take the Syndra for Mission and play an all-out aggressive game plan. So honestly, we're seeing everything coming from Gemini. He was the best jungler in my eyes in the last split as well, and now he is on holistically a better team. I feel like he has much more to prove in playoffs.
Absolutely, and certainly you mentioned a senior jungler. He's still got the moves for sure. Not really any rust anywhere to be found on that player, and he makes Lee Sin look oh so good. Of course, if you are a jungler, it's kind of the 101 champion to really learn the role on for a lot of players, and doing some of those more advanced moves, the insect kicks, things like that. If you can start racking up highlights on week number 1, you've got something special. Gemini been around for a long time and certainly making his presence count. Here are where things stand. With not everyone having played some games, things are going to get a little bit fast and loose, but CFO do stand atop the league, tying, of course, with Deep Cross Gaming, or as we'd like to call them, the J-Team Avengers from time to time. After that, you got Meta Falcon Team and PSG, as well as J-Team proper, sitting there, Megabank Beyond Gaming, only at 1-1, which is definitely a surprise, but I think we'll be seeing them move up the standings, depending on where Sem 9 end up, as well as Frank Esports right after that at 1-2, and bringing up the rear, Hurricane and Impunity still winless in the hunt. I think we need to see more from those squads before we start seeing them rack up the W's, though.
I'll be honest, Impunity Esports, for me, is the one that has the most upside potential because their early games have been relatively calm, and I think a few of their players have shown a lot of potential. Like, I feel like Quiet is doing well, and their mid-game macro is doing well. It's just individual mistakes that has cost them multiple Barons, but they are the team that I would not be surprised if they can shoot up quite drastically in Move 2.
For sure, and of course, the org's been around in the PCS for a bit of time as well, and we'll see if they can start to bring glory to the name. For the rest of the squads in the hunt, of course, this is a very different-looking PCS than you might all be familiar with. I think a lot is up in the air, especially with the departure of some of the top players, but also lots up in the air with the champions that have been picked so far. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about here with, Zeri and Xin Zhao being so popular, and of course, some of the more expected things, the Felias, the Gwen, the Nautilus, but these new picks Deep Cross Gaming are bringing out here. Of course, the Bard Smite. I'm loving it. Nesty has been having a ball. The Heimerdingers come to play as well. We've had some great games to kick us off.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look at these two champions, what's so interesting about it is that they come as a package. You have Heimerdinger that will auto-push the lane, even against something like Caitlyn and Karma, and then Bard just roams down with their jungler to make a 4v2 tower dive happen. They really have this so well thought out. I felt like the last time they played against Frank Gaming, Frank actually had a very good counter composition, but it still didn't work because they are willing to go outside of the box to get that shove potential in the bot side. So honestly, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I expect Deep Cross Gaming to run this same composition until someone bans it or someone can actually crack open a win against it.
Someone is going to have to call the bluff eventually if it keeps on working. But for the time being, Deep Cross are off to a very, very good start. A lot of experience coming out of that roster, and no one's really been able to contest it. Some of the things that have been contested, though, of course, as we mentioned, the Xin Zhao is showing up pretty consistently as a standard heavy engaged jungler that can really get in the middle, mix it up, make sure that he can't die very quickly. The Crescent Guard comes out, of course. And then Zeri has had a great performance. I think we were talking right before the start of today's games just about how Zeri's been good, not just here, but all over the world right now. It feels like it's impossible to lose with this champion.
Yeah, she's currently sitting at 12 wins and only 1 loss across major regions. So I expect Zeri to be just permaban coming in from the red side, and that will shift over the, the blue side priority pick of Xin Zhao and Gwen that we have in the PCS.
Absolutely. We are still on patch 12.3 today, of course, so nothing major has changed. Don't worry about, once we get weeks into it and Renata gets enabled, everyone starts banning that all over the place. But for now, we are good to go. Let's take a look at today's matches, though. Starting off, we do have CTBC Flying Oyster taking on Sen9, who are going to be pulling double duty as they have to go back-to-back and play up against PSG Talon. A tough order, but if they can pull out even one win there, I think that is a absolute statement to kick things off for the Malaysian representatives.
Of course, and we do have to set some expectations for this squad coming in. As we said, they're basically Berjaya supporting cast with new carries, and we don't have to guess about if there's an upgrade or a downgrade. Let's just say they stay even. That's probably a 7th or 8th place team. So just looking at this matchup against CTBC Flying Oysters, they have a very, very tough road ahead of them. As we can just see of their players, a lot of familiar faces coming in from that first team, and I do think that CTBC right now, they have the best solo laners in Mission and also in Rest, and they also have the best jungler, and to boot, Atlan actually had a pretty damn good week 1 as well. So it's looking strong across the board. They have variety in terms of their compositions. They have strengths in all different stages of the game, or they can play early with Gemini, late game split push with Rest. It's just a very smooth sailing for them because they can switch up on any opponent they face.
Yeah, they really haven't had too much trouble to start, and I think it's because you mentioned, not only do they have really strong players in solo lanes, and of course, Gemini, who might, by all accounts, be the best jungler in the league, if not right now, maybe for the rest of the split. To top it off, Atlan's been doing well, and that was the one question mark we have, is like, this roster is full of all-stars, and Atlan was certainly somebody we didn't expect to be able to step up and put on his carry pants against a number of the other bottom laners in this league, but he's done just that in their starting games. I would expect no less than him to do it again today. We'll have to find out. Up against their opponents, they are Sem9 representing Malaysia. We have Shiramine, Arashi, Lazar, ClayX, and Felia, and certainly some familiar faces, but as you mentioned, also some very, very new players coming onto the Rift, in particular, that mid and bot lane.
Yeah, we really don't have a lot of information on Lazar. For Shiro, he's actually been playing around since 2018, and he's known for playing a lot of AP top laners. He loves his Vladimirs, his Kennons, and his Rumbles back in the day. Of course, that's 4 years ago, so, it's anyone's guess on what he will be playing in the Hullbreaker meta today. But, Kennen is still a very viable champion on 12.3, so I kind of expect that to go into that direction. On the other hand, you do have Arashi and Felia, the supporting cast from Perja, as we have mentioned, still filling in. Lazar is completely new to competitive. We have no idea what he's going to bring to the table. We're extremely excited to see what he can do. And then finally, for ClayX, he was also playing in 2018 in the LCM leagues, mainly playing things like Ezreal and Zaya. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team kind of shakes up, whether they are going to be more bottom side focused, which personally would be my guess, or if they are going to kind of switch up on us and have some surprises from the Lazar's position.
Well, we're going to have to see. So kicking things off into the picks and bans here, our first match of week number 2. CFO are going to go ahead and get rid of some of those hotly contested picks. The Xin Zhao goes off the board, and so does the Akali, something we saw topside, actually, in the hands of Taco. And also, we're going to see a lot of heavy targeting at Arashi as now the Diana's removed.
Yeah, this is the one player that they have seen perform, and Arashi honestly did pull off a lot of great moves on stuff like the Lee Sin in 2021. So they're just I think CFO are just dealing with the devil that they know and just kind of saying whatever to the devil that they don't. And currently looking at the patch, it's kind of interesting, but CFO do get their Gwen open. This has been kind of the go-to blue side pick with a very, very high win rate so far in the PCS.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up coming in first. S9 really focused a fair bit on the bottom side. They not only banned out the Zeri, they also banned out the Caitlyn, leaving the Jinx open, though, is curious. Now, this is an early hover. I was going to say, we have seen a little bit of Samira around the world, but I would be surprised if that's first pickup. Instead, they grab the Syndra from Mission, who looked, if I recall correctly, he looked absolutely insane on that last week.
Very deadly on that champion. He was getting solo kills on the opponent, and whenever he's playing this Syndra, you can bet that he's going to be pushing right on top of the enemy tower, and everyone else is going to be rotating into his lane. So I think Lazar has a really, really tough road ahead of him. First competitive debut against Mission, who's played on 10 different teams, coming in with a lot of different experience. We'll see what they pick to actually counter this out, but it looks like CFO are pretty much set on just going for kind of an early lane domination strategy, which I think is a good way to welcome a new player.
Absolutely. Trial by fire. It looks like they will go ahead and go for the takeaway on Gemini's Lee Sin, but very hotly contested once again. The Gwen is still going to make it through. If this gets locked in, there's quite a lot of heavy AP threat on the CFO side. Wouldn't be too surprised if they just nab it here.
Yeah.
There it goes.
Gwen is just, honestly, we do have a dearth of Jace players in this league, so I feel like Gwen has just automatically risen to the top priority pick in the PCS. There are some counters, especially from the LPL, where you see people coming up with the Jaxes, coming in with the Jaces, and even sometimes the actions, but that really hasn't been the case in the PCS so far. We have a lot of weak side top laners, so we'll see what Shiro can actually, Shiro Mine, he just changed his name. He was originally registered that Shiro will come up with here today. And Graves is a solid answer. You get some early game punish, you can shove your wave in, but late game,
no ignite though.
Yeah, no ignite, please, no ignite. It's so hard to kill people with ignite, but late game I still feel like the Gwen has right of way in that side lane.
Not only that, Atlan also gets his hands on the Jinx too after so many early bans focused on that bottom lane. I feel like CFO are getting pretty much everything they want here. On the other hand, Sem9, they have a pretty strong core. I feel like there's a lot they can do with this, but I feel like as the AD carry pool gets a little bit drained, ClayX is going to be put in a little bit of a tough situation, as now you see the Aphelios banned away. They hovered a Tristana earlier, which I guess might be a little safe, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, Tristana is one of those weird picks that we have seen pop up here and there as a potential multi-solo lane flex, but I think what Sem9 are drafting for here is just early game dominance and trying to strike while the iron is hot. They basically have a top lane that has right of way that can shove in early. They have a Lee Sin that is probably your strongest early game jungler, and then a Leona that can just pack in crowd control to make sure you finish off those kills. So for me, it's reading like Sem9 is trying to combat this Syndra just head on, just fight fire with fire, and try to go directly at her with those picks. So I think the mid lane pick is going to be the most important one. We'll see what they actually play against the Syndra herself. She doesn't really have a lot of hard counters, to be honest. But you know, with the Jhin lock-in, it's very clearly that S9 are not aiming for a late game strategy. This is basically, we got to get this show on the road at 15 minutes or bust.
Yeah, I mean, hey, at the very least, they can find out if they ended up making a mistake faster rather than earlier. I do like, pairing this Jhin up. There's a lot of firepower, quite literally, between that and the Graves. Curious to see what that mid lane pickup ends up being, if it's something that tries to maybe neutralize. Could you see something like maybe a Lissandra coming in here?
I'll be honest, I actually favor something like a Twisted Fate. Even though it doesn't win lane outright, it really favors the fact that you're roaming across these lanes really quickly. You have that burst potential, that crowd control 1-2 punch with the Leona as well. So I'm leaning more towards the TF. I don't think there's a champion that outright wins lane against Syndra, so that would be my pick. But we'll see what happens.
This is a scary comp. Viego made it. Obviously, Viego isn't like the same power level that he used to be. Made it all the way through the pick bans, and now Gemini's got it. There's a lot of kill potential, a lot of kill threat. Let's see what Sem9 lock in to finish things off before we get to the end of it. A Zoe ends up being the choice at the last minute shift up, so this becomes a little slippery all of a sudden.
Yeah, I am not a huge proponent of the Zoe into the Syndra matchup. It's definitely one where if you get lucky enough and you catch her outside of vision, then you can make a kill with the Lee Sin. But generally, overall, Syndra does have a little bit more priority in this lane. So I do feel like, CFO's draft is massively favored, not only because they have all of those late game power spikes with the Viego, with the Gwen, with the Jinx. They also have an early game mid lane that can actually shove the opponent in quite easily. So if I'm looking across the board, it does look towards me like CFO has just got all of their bases covered, and we really need to see some sort of early game miraculous skirmish come out from Sem9 to actually stabilize and pull them ahead.
Yeah, if one thing that Sem9 has going for themselves is that there's just, there really isn't any footage for other teams to study, to look at it, but that's about to change after this game, of course. If they can take on the likes of CFO early with this incredibly scary, heavy damage composition that, as you mentioned, really does have kind of peaks at just about all phases of the game, that would be a big eye-opener, and I think a lot of people would start paying attention to this squad, but it's going to be such a tough ask. But just the nameplates alone, it was already a challenge. Looking at this composition, they're going to have to be so careful not to overstep their bounds in this one, but they do have some tools. They do have the ability to fight. I'm curious to see if any of the newcomers can come out swinging and make a name for themselves, because, man, especially in a couple of these lanes, you can't get an experience gap that is wider on the big stage than the likes of Mission versus Lazar. I want to see if the rookie can do something, or if Mission's just going to slam him into the ground.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough one for him for sure. I think this match, from Sem9's perspective, most of it does come down to what the jungler can do to actually impact. He does have a priority matchup versus the the Viego, and he does have potentially shoving lanes in the top side, and also some kill and pick potential with Lazar in the mid side as well. So I think Arashi is going to be where most of my focus on. In the bot side, you do see some potential for maybe level 3 to overpower them with the Jhin matchup, but overall bot lanes have been pretty static from what we've seen. And just taking a look at the runes right here, there's actually something a little bit new that we're seeing, but Rest is going to go with the Lethal Tempo, a very aggressive rune into the likes of Graves. This is basically a level 6. We're going to chase you down. I hit my triple slow, and I can cut you to pieces. That's sort of the goal that he's going for. It's not your usual sort of a laning setup with the Conquerors and a little bit more sustain. This is an outright level 6 kill with the Ghost Summoner being selected as well.
Yeah, we've seen this from Gwens in the past, of course, but, with the new season change-ups, it's not quite as easy as it may have been before. Early start, a little bit of Ward Wars. This is just going to be the supports bashing heads. In fact, though, Koala does manage to get the better of Felia there with a little help from Atlan. Still got to be careful up against the Jhin lane. The range for Klayax is going to be his saving grace to kick things off on this Jhin.
Yeah, we are just going to see Atlan try to outshove this lane. And so far, Jinx has been the, outside of Zeri, has been the dominant AD carry of the PCS. Great late game potential. And we're seeing these level 1 trades as a huge part of it as well. Just, switch over to Rocket and just shove in the entire backline minion. We've seen this happen quite a bit. Jhin has been a very favorite champion as well, but I think he's mainly played for the potential to get picks outside of his own lane. So we're going to see how that comes in. And Arashi already making that trip down to the bot lane. However, I do want to mention that he was actually spotted on his Raptors, and you can see Atlan right now placing the ward down, knowing that Lee Sin might be lurking around this bot side.
Yeah, CFO definitely showing good game sense, paying attention on the minimap and getting those wards down early, it's good to see. This is the team that has all the fundamentals. They have such an experienced core. As we mentioned in week 1, our biggest question mark was how well Atlan was going to be able to perform with this team of superstars. So far, so good. There's plenty of games to play yet, but, if he can hang with everybody, it's kind of hard to find a weak point on this team.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, we have to focus in onto the mid lane once more. Somehow Mission is up a full wave.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
Mission.
happened there. But, yeah, this is why I'm not a huge proponent of the Zoe matchup. I feel like it's actually pretty difficult to get out of lane against the Syndra. In the LPL, this is definitely considered a counter pick. And this is painful. This is just very difficult to watch.
That is the Mission diff right there. Unfortunately for Lazar, welcome to the PCS. Enjoy your stay. Mission is going to try and shove your face in, or at least freeze you out for a little while. Good start for the Syndra. That is going to be a pain in the behind for Sem9 for a little while. Still keeping an eye on Arashi as he's hanging around in this mid. He could potentially go in and try to get a gank or at least peel a flash off of Mission, but look at how safe he's actually playing in this one, and there's not a lot of vision for him just now, but they have to know he's hanging around.
Yeah, and you can see this is the sort of diversity that CFO can throw at you. If they're winning in their mid lane, it can actually allow their side lanes and their jungler to just free scale up. There's no pressure on CFO right now, despite Lee Sin and Zoe, two very strong early game champions. And honestly, if I'm CFO, I don't really have to do anything in this setup. I just hold all of my lanes steady, make sure both of my side lanes are warded up. And the most important thing for a jungler in this spot is actually just not to show. If you don't show anywhere on the map, then Arashi can't pick apart one of these lanes because he has to be thinking about the potential for a counter gank. Now, I like what Lazar is doing here. This is definitely what you should do if you're getting frozen out. You try to tag their jungler and make sure you can find those 2v1 opportunities.
Always an opportunity. It looks like it's going to be a 2v2 opportunity down bottom, but just supports trading health bars for the time being. Nobody's interested in an all-in just yet. And as you mentioned, yeah, controlled gameplay. Controlled aggression even from the likes of CFO, who don't have to do much because they do have such great late game between that Gwen and that Jinx. Also the Viego, who always has pop-off potential. There's so many threats here, and Mission's winning early when he's supposed to. So everything going according to plan to kick things off.
Yeah, and we have seen a very similar comp idea being ran in the LPL, where this comp does extremely good off of resets. You get the get excited from Atlan. He's going to be attacking with 25% just overall attack speed buff. And then you have Gemini, who's going to be able to get an entire new champion worth of skills to just pop off and continue to roll throughout the composition. And, the first kill is actually very easy to set up when you have Nautilus and Syndra together. So it's a very well-rounded comp. It's strong late. It has power points early. And now we're seeing potentially CFO actually go into a mistake because they were spotted by Lazar's ward. This could be a trap they walk themselves into.
Not pulling the trigger just yet, even though Lazar does get stunned by the Scout of the Week. Arashi and Felia are hanging around here for this potential 3v3, and of course everybody realizes what's happening around the same time, decides, maybe we don't take this. Instead, there is a pretty free Cloud Dragon if we want to go ahead and secure that.
Yeah, not really sure if that stealth ward was able to see around the corner, but it looks like CFO were aware that Felia was just right there underneath the tower, so they don't pull the trigger even when they do land the stun, and they just continue to scale up, which, as we said before, is perfectly fine against their opponent's comp.
Yeah, all they have to do, and you can already start to see in most of the lanes a pretty good separation of that farm, about 11 CS up in the mid, 20 in the bottom, and Atlan is just tearing it up. The rocket poke is relentless here, and there's not a lot Playx and Felia can do. Koala has also been great at just not only keeping those captive audiences cleared, but getting up in the face of both bottom laners.
That's really well played by CFO overall. We do have the sort of bot lane attention with the first jungle rotation towards that side of the map, and the warding was on point. They did spot the earlier Arashi path where they were going to go, and that's just how you play the Jinx versus Jhin matchup. You just constantly push him in with your rockets. They got the front line over with the execution right off on the first wave. They push in the second wave with just Qs, and ClayX has been staying underneath tower ever since. So we really have this situation where all of the agency has to come from Sem9. They have to find a pick. I like what they're doing here. Top lane has been one of the only winning points on the map for them. They're going to use that and try to get some skirmishes going.
We'll talk about that in a minute because we got a skirmish on the bottom side. ClayX getting caught up by the grenades. The Flame Chompers, no level 6. No, he just hits it. Atlan, he doesn't have the mana as he just fires it off at the last second. And Felia intercepts. 80 carry getting saved by his support. It's a tale as old as time, Clement.
That was such a good play. If you do that play for Uzi, he immediately invites you and you get to play on BLG. So well done there by Felia. You have passed the Uzi test. You are loyal to the core, to your 80 carry. However, we still do have to call this as it is. This is a huge win for CFO. They get both of the summers from ClayX and some turret plates to boot.
Yeah, great start here. Going to be even more as Atlan will be able to secure up. Not quite that last plate. The minions are going to take care of the rest of it. Meanwhile, back to the mid, Lazar. Not a whole lot of mana. Just goes running away as Gemini comes scarily out of the bushes. Checking back in, as you mentioned, the only lane that was really winning on the Sem9 side was up top. And that started to flip once again. Rest has actually taken over the CS game. And here we might get a bit of a jungle skirmish as Gemini has actually found out, dodging away from Arashi. Nicely done, but he cannot compete with this unless the rest of the team wants to collapse. Sem9 are deciding to hit the go button here at 8.5.
Yeah, they do have a momentarily numbers advantage, but they have to use it right now. If this drags on, Jinx is going to be in the fight.
Yeah, I think so, and they're actually just going to go for it. In goes Koala, and the rocket goes ahead and splits the uprights, but it doesn't matter. The kill comes in, and it is just all coming up CFO. Arashi tries to get some revenge, will manage to take out only Koala at the expense of damn near the rest of his team.
And that's the combo we were talking about. It's just way too easy to chain damage when you have Syndra and you have Nautilus to just make sure everyone stays in place. You see Gemini flying in to get the extra damage. They didn't even need to use a super mega death rocket. That one went straight through the team and they were still able to execute everyone. So we're going to watch that combo being executed once more. Rest goes in, throws in the ultimate. That's a 4-man slow. Then you have the scatter of the week on everyone. You also have Gemini going in and just picking up resets. I really feel like Sem9, they were a little bit too hesitant on the play. If they had that 5v4, they needed to make use of it right then and right there. But unfortunately for them, the bottom lane from CFO, especially Koala, was able to join the fight. And that golden opportunity just kind of slipped them by.
Yeah, with all of that gold that CFO were able to accumulate, going ahead and buying themselves some shiny new mythic items. Divine Sunder completed now on Gemini. Rest has got the Riftmaker. Everybody else not too far behind there. And this is just going to get really tough for Sem9. At 10 minutes, we've got a pretty heavy gold deficit of about 3,500. They're down the Dragon. Of course, the Rift Herald not even been used just yet. Still sitting in Mission's pocket. And they kind of went half-heartedly into that one. It was a bit odd. I think they were second-guessing it themselves.
Yeah, I feel like they probably should not have gone all in for that one. Their bot lane was very lagging behind in tempo. They wanted to do a top lane swap and continue the dominance from Shiromine in the top side. However, with that going down the drain, I feel like they're in really dire straits. And again, I think a lot of it does come down to that mid lane pick. I just don't think Zoe has enough room to do much against this the Syndra. Like, Mission is just way too experienced, and now we have a potential skirmish.
Yeah, 2v3 down bottom. You can see that Felia went in, but Arashi actually sitting on the front lines couldn't get a whole lot done, and Atlan staying just safe beyond the line of sight. The rest of CFO kind of just collapsed once more, and what was a numbers deficit turns into an advantage as they catch ClayX. Atlan a little bit slowed, but Gemini says, that's okay. I don't need your help. I'm good. And Gemini's doing Gemini things.
Yeah, the Gemini multi-stun combo, getting the Leona stuns down, then into the Viego stuns. I honestly feel like that's just has to be an 80 carry's worst nightmare, where your support is now taking vengeance back on you for taking away all of that CS and killing you with the assassin play as well.
Oh, Koala got out of that so easily, too. I didn't even catch that the first time. Arashi goes for the kick on the support, doesn't have it. Body block, he limps away. Look at Atlas. This is an 80 carry's dream right now. When you just have, like, fish in a barrel free farm. And you know he wanted that next kill, and Klax just escapes from him. But wait, here he comes. Gemini to the rescue.
Yeah, that's so painful. They definitely would have gone that Koala kill if the hook didn't pull him away. So, you know, staggering blows here, just doing work again. I'm sorry, Dredgeline just doing massive work again here for Koala and saving him in that one. And now it's a 7-1, and well, again, we just haven't seen Lazar be able to join these fights at all. He did 0 damage in that 4-man skirmish coming in from the side of CFO, and I hate to say it, but I'd like that Twisted Fate a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been able to do a bit more on the map, and you know, I feel like to make things go from bad to worse is an Infernal Rift. So, I mean, this game could be over before Soul even gets on the table, but if CFO picked that one up, that gets even harder for Sem9 to try and fight. Of course, the window of opportunity is going to be closing fast.
It definitely is, and if we look at Sem9, their damage profile is very much just pure physical.
Oh, goodbye, Lazar.
Yeah, and that was their only AP
tries
option.
to kick back. Oh, he has just enough to get in and finish the job. Actually, getting shutdown gold is massive here, and he will walk away with it, but the rare kill, you need a lot more. Oh, and he is lucky on that rocket. It goes right by, hits him with the emote. At least Arashi still knows how to have a good time.
Yeah, he does have the chicken wing wriggle as well at the very end there, you know, just keeping his style points on. Very well done by Arashi.
Let's see that again.
Oh, that was so fun to watch here. And I think Mission actually, very interesting flash backward, so we'll see if he was doing that to drop turret aggro. Okay, oh, he was trying to flash the Q2. Doesn't actually, like time it correctly, or you know, Arashi was holding on to that one for quite a while and still is able to find execute. It's been a long time since we looked at top lane, but it looks like, you know, Gwen gets her dues.
Yeah, we're starting to see Rest come online. He's been involved in a couple of these skirmishes, hasn't really needed to do much more than that, just frontlining with the Mist. Meanwhile, Atlan is just solo rocket hitting this tower, should be able to finish the job on the next wave. And Koala actually just way up in river to try and keep this thing clear. So Arashi's had one really solid revenge play. He's been involved in these fights as well, and he's gotten a little bit of his due. But I feel like he needs to really be pulling double duty if he wants to get more done in this one. Because you look at how the gold is starting to get out of control. Rest and Mission are at a race to a top, with Atlan not too far behind. Nobody but Arashi's even in the running for top 5.
Yeah, he basically has no damage from the 3 of his laners at this point, so he pretty much has to kick Atlan into the entire team every single fight. Like, that's the way Sem9 is going to have to win these ones. And we talked about the itemization as we were just before, like, the plays happened. It's very easy for CFO to just stack armor, and Sem9 can't really do much. They're not getting enough damage from Lazar at this point, so it will just make the rest of the map just completely nullified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another tough thing about this composition, right? There's so much reliance on attack damage instead of magic. Rest spies Arashi over the red pit and just says, "Hey, what are you doing? Go back to your jungle." He's gonna get the rip up though. Let's see if he gets out with his life. That's the fun thing. Rocket lined right up, and Rest gets the final snip. And now the rest of Sem9 running for the hills here. Clemens Koala on the front line. Felia trying to get out, does drop the solar flare, and he might be tanky, but Atlan will chew through him like paper. And Koala, kill secured.
Yeah, Koala didn't need to do that, but hey, he started this fight off with a bang. It definitely was. That was very aggressive from Arashi, and I don't think it was worth it whatsoever. He was trying to make stuff happen. As we were talking about, his laners are probably not going to be the ones to start this fight. He has to do it all by himself, and I felt like he was a little bit desperate on that one.
Yeah, Shelly dropped up top to finish off tier 2.
Gemini, Gemini.
Here comes Arashi. You talked about the aggression. Gets the double kick. Is this the opportunity? As Shiro picks up Mission, and Arashi finishes off his opposite number. 2 quick pickups opens up a rare opportunity for Sem9 on the map.
That was absolutely huge because both of those players had a lot of standing gold on them. Gemini was a massive shutdown, first death in the game after 5 takedowns. And if that gold does go over to Shiroman, I believe, they will get some more gold in the bag to fight on. This is just such a beautiful move. He kicks for Gemini, but actually was eyeing Mission the entire time. Gets the knockback. And honestly, this play wasn't worth it for CFO. They get 1 tower, but they give up a massive shutdown.
Yeah, I think they were buying a little much into their own hype on that one. You might be ahead, but there's always the opportunity for the collapse when you're that far forward. So I would expect CFO to maybe play back a little bit. That does force the reset. However, they have so much map control and so much more gold in a straight-up 5v5 invested in those items. I feel like this next Dragon should be pretty hard for Sem9 to contest.
Yeah, they're down almost 10,000 gold, but if we look at the shutdown, it did go over to Shiromine. And if you look at the build right now, CFO are not on the armor stack just yet. They haven't got their core items together. So with that serrated dirk, you could actually deal a lot of damage. What we're looking for right now is that Sleepy Trouble double bubble into that collateral damage. If you can land that on Atlan, there is some fighting chance.
There's always the opportunity there. Mission would also be a solid target if they can pull it off, but as it stands, no chance to contest on the Dragon. That is 3 for 3 for CFO. And now Shiromine is actually caught, and he decides to take the fight to Mission, thinking maybe I can do it. But wait a minute, there's 3 people on top of me. Where's the rest of my team? Oh, wait, they're in the mid lane, and I'm dead.
Aw, man. CFO are not honorable fighters. I guess Oyster is moved together, or I'm not even sure if
Have you ever seen a single oyster, a single living oyster at one point? I'm pretty sure they are in clusters.
Yeah, they kind of drift with the wave and just go with the flow, but
these are very aggressive oysters.
That's true. CFO,
They're
not
flying,
honorable. That was clearly a duel. They did not hold to their own rules, and unfortunately, Shiromine is going to have to pay for that.
Yeah, a little unfortunate as he's doing a lot of work for the team at the moment after picking up shutdown gold, but, you know, freeing up the opportunity. Jinx is a big tower wrecker when she gets up to this point in the game, right? You can do so much just by virtue of being able to use the minigun over and over and over. You may not have like a big execution, but the consistent damage is key. Look at what Sem9 are doing, though. They're pushing their luck, and they're pushing the mid lane. The collapse is coming, and they have to know this is going on now. Scout of the week, they do get the stun off onto Felia. Here comes the Super Mega Death Rocket, not going to land on anybody, but they do not need it as Atlan gets 1, Rest gets 2, and the team just get cleaned up.
Oh, there was absolutely nowhere to go. The Gwen was coming in from the back with a ghost, so you can't outrun her. She tags the slowdown. Koala lands the crown control. Gemini gets the stun to knock everything off. And once again, Atlan misses everything. This is actually really impressive to see. When you have, like, mission landing stuff, when you have Nautilus and Gemini landing their crowd control, but, you know, Atlan's still not landing anything. Maybe the 3rd time's a charm, but...
Unlucky.
You know, honestly, that was the only remarkable thing about that fight. I felt like everything else was just how it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Sem9 for not going quietly into the night. You know, they may not be making plays that are necessarily good percentages, good odds of winning, but they're not sitting back and waiting to die. And I respect that.
I feel like that play is a play that you have to do if you're this far behind in the game. What you're basically banking for is that the enemy cannot coordinate a flank at the same time. So you have a lot of burst potential. Maybe you can catch Mission off guard, get a kill there, get a tower there. And a lot of times when teams are rushing in to try and defend their towers, they're going to be coming in but like one-on-one, and that will give you opportunities to pick them off. Unfortunately for CFO, their surround was just way too well done, and they landed too many critical crowd controls just right off the bat. So, you know, Sem9 really didn't find their chance.
Oh boy, 20-minute Baron right now. Should prompt a reaction, but with the superior 5v5, CFO are feeling pretty confident about their chances. Already down to 5,000 health. Mission just waiting in the brush. The curtain call is open. Arashi has to be a hero here. He's going to go in. Gets the steal. Will it be worth it in the end? We'll have to see. The steal goes down, and Felia's going to get caught here. Should get destroyed. The rest of the team needs to escape as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble does land. Arashi, man, his back must be breaking from all the carrying he's trying to do this game, Clement.
Yeah, we just saw a teleport from Shiromine as well as he goes directly back to base to try and defend. Rest is eyeing on Klax.
Flash in. Rest is not done with him on the needlework, but Gwen is immune in the miss as she tries to move forward. Collateral damage, it's not going to be enough now. Shuromine is going to chase him all the way to Fountain, try to get that 1v1 delayed. And he, I believe, will be the only one to keep the Baron buff.
Yeah, that was a little bit unfortunate right there. Overall, a 4-for-1 trade in favor of CFO. They don't get the Baron, but they crack the base open for that. I think, this game, it was kind of going sideways very early on, but we got our money's worth just because of Arashi's performances so far.
Yeah, he timed that steal so well, waited in the brush. Nobody had any idea he was here until it was too late. I mean, this is really good timing.
Yeah, we call the cubby the smoking area in the PCS, and like he was chugging his cigarettes for a very long time before finally coming from that angle. No one expected it. It was a great steal, but unfortunately the rest of the team couldn't really make their great escape. This is kind of questionable from Graves. We actually saw the question mark pings from his own team, and let's see how Lazar gets flashed on.
Lazar actually came close to killing Gemini.
True,
that was actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. But Deja Vu strikes again. Felia realizes that he's not making it alive, so he chooses death here on his own terms. But unfortunately, that means Atlan's going to pick up the kill.
Yeah, and I don't think he actually found any of those Merc Wolves either, so no gold there. In the meantime, I love this from Arashi. He's going for the Hail Mary play, going all the way into the enemy red just to find a flank. But unfortunately for him, his support is dead, and he has to take the normal route to the battlefield.
Yeah, Clayx opens up the curtain call, try and clear away the super minions. They will stop the push for now, but unfortunately, remember that Dragon Soul I was talking about earlier? That's on the table.
Yeah, there's really no hope for Sem9 taking this whatsoever. So I think this is just about defending the last push, defense of the Ancients, try to get your Nexus to stay alive as long as possible. Oh, sorry.
It's okay, after time, these things happen.
I know, I'm a boomer. I got all these games mixed up in my head.
Oh, dude, tell me about it, man. I feel, what makes me feel really old? When I look at kits like Renata Glask, and I'm like, I remember when a passive and the 3 abilities were simple. Not anymore.
Yeah, you remember Nace's passive? It was just like, 12% lifesteal. That's a skill.
It's easy. Patch notes were very simple in those days. They were a lot snarkier than they are now, too, I'll have to admit. But yeah, enough story time from us. I'm sure all the youngins in the chat want us to just get on with the game. So, CFO, they obviously have this one in the bank. But Sem9 have shown a couple surprises, and if it's going to be another one, it's got to be Arashi with the Hail Mary, as you said. But they've got eyes on him right now, and he needs to get the flank, and it's Koala that's actually hitting the go button here as they catch Lazar. He's going to stop himself for just a second. Not long enough to stay alive, it seems. And it looks like this is where CFO want to end this game. Shuromine limping back to his fountain alongside Arashi and Clayx, but that is the base cracked wide. And this has got to be it. Just under 25 minutes, Arashi with the final kick, but his team just doesn't have the damage. Good night, Sem9 in their opening game here of the PCS. Rest will chase Arashi away as his team fires down onto the Nexus to take the game in a absolutely beautiful victory. They're going to wait for their teammates to come back. They want Rest to get the KDA.
No, Arashi was just way too good this game, so they have to knock him down a peg. They can't give him that satisfaction of letting him know he was a great player. Oh, the minions still finish it off.
Arashi wins at the end. Unfortunately, this is not a game where you can kill your own minions on the regular, unlike another one you might have mentioned. But CFO, they take a big win, and Sem9 had some moments, but they never really had that much of a chance, it felt like.
I felt like their game plan was one that was really reliant on basically out-muscling their opponent. If you just look at the picks that were selected, it was very difficult in a standard way if there was no confrontation in the early game to see them coming out ahead. They didn't have the scaling edge, their mid lane was getting pushed down, so was their bottom lane. So what they really needed was a bit more chaos and a bit more of those skirmishes to actually go their way for a fed Zoe to show up on board. That didn't really happen, and I felt like it was very smooth sailing from CFO. Overall, I feel like their picks packed a lot more power and a lot more potential when it came to the late game. So they didn't really have to do all that much. Arashi was the one trying to advance the game, trying to make the comebacks, and if there was ever a player that deserved an MVP in a losing effort, it would definitely be Arashi and his Lee Sin.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think there was some early games where we were wondering where he was going to show. Obviously, had a hard time because he wasn't able to track the Anime Viego. But when Arashi showed up, he really did, had some incredible hero plays, kept Sem9 alive in the game. And that's something that not every jungler can do. And I feel like if there's going to be an edge here for Sem9 in future games, that's going to be it. But for this one, yeah, the pick and ban phase gave away a lot of power picks, a lot of really comfortable choices over the likes of CFO. I think they definitely need to go back to the drawing board a little bit on their draft strategy. And the good news is they're going to have some practice because they get to play the next game against PSG Talon.
That is definitely true, and unfortunately for them, I feel like CFO and PSG are definitely some of the toughest teams to have to debut against. So it is going to be a very quick transition, and from what we've seen this game, I feel like they are going to be a team that is much more aggressive. They are relying on Arashi. So far, it seems like Arashi is going to be their best player coming into this one. So we could see a contrast of styles where we have PSG that is showing up very, very slow in this split, and a fiery Sem9 is that can try to overpower the Korean duo.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing going into that next game is you're talking about experience versus, the newer squad that hasn't been on that same stage, or at least not for nearly as long. And the tables kind of turn a little bit there in favor of this Sem9 team. So that's, getting a little bit ahead into this one. I also want to give them, massive congratulations, of course, to CFO, who just played, I won't say a flawless game. They definitely earned a couple of marks off for maybe pushing their edge a little bit too much, going a little bit too deep, giving the opportunities, but they were just in such a comfortable position from the get-go. Mission just completely bullying Lazar in the mid lane, just never giving a chance in the bottom. Atlan, of course, looked good. Sure, he missed a bunch of Jinx rockets, but at the end of the day, he didn't really need to hit them for them to win the games. The Gwen started off in a losing matchup and then just completely took over. It kind of felt like everything went according to plan with just a couple minor hitches for CFO.
Yeah, I think the most important thing about this game is everyone, their attention was on this bot lane and whether Atlan was going to be able to hold his own against some of the other, better AD carries. But in this game, from start to finish, you can kind of criticize him for not hitting his rockets, but he won his lane very handedly, was able to win the 2v2 just upright, push down the tower, and that is the biggest concern of CFO completely gone. Their top side is completely fine. I like the lethal tempo Glen. It worked perfectly this time. He was able to take the tower against the Graves without any jungler help. He just straight up took it. So, there's nothing really wrong to see from CFO, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see if teams can kind of crack this strategy where they're going to go aggressive mid jungle and then just go scaling into the side lanes. It's very difficult to fight that if you don't have the same caliber of talent on all of these lanes.
Yeah, there's a lot of weight to be thrown around on the CFO side, too. Everybody is performing well. A player we didn't even really talk about much, Koala, he really showed up with some great engages on the dredge lines.
The
he was doing
Spider-Man
everything
escape.
he needed. Yeah, really. I mean, the escape was sick, too. Like how was that not a highlight in this game where there was just so many big plays? The damage, the crown of the damage dealing, of course, does go to Mission, who just had so much. Sure, he may have overstepped once or twice, and Arashi got the jump on him, but it was perfectly all right. And Koala, yes, there we go. He gets the MVP for the game. How often do you get to see a support earning that?
His best play of the game was the Spider-Man homecoming play where he just gets out of a guaranteed kill with the dredge line and just walks away from it. Sayonara, Ignite ticking down, but surviving on less than 100 HP. That is basically CFO's entire game summed up in that one single play where, Sem9 are trying to get the fire started. They're trying to get things going early, and CFO just walked away.
Yeah, I mean, it was some great plays. Obviously, playing for the team, setting things up is great as well. But also, there are moments as a support when you should definitely walk away, and Koala managed to play it very, very well. Very satisfying KDA as well. That is what you call the pie. 3-1-14, in fact. But what a great game from CTBC Flying Oyster to kick things off. Sem9, of course, having a start full of tough challenges, but we'll see if they can do it, as they will take to the stage once again to face off against the likes of PSG Talon. Right after this, we'll be right back.